Project 613, Day 7. The negative commandment not to desecrate God's name. The Torah tells us that if a Jew lives in a time of terrible persecution, and unfortunately in our history there's been plenty of that, in a time of persecution where our enemies are targeting the Jewish people and trying to force them to forsake Judaism, there is a negative commandment not to listen. So if a government decides that a specific mitzvah is illegal, they are banning the observance of a specific mitzvah on pain of death, a Jew has a mitzvah not to listen to the government and to do that mitzvah. And if they listen to that government that is forbidding them from doing that mitzvah, a Jew is violating the command not to desecrate God's name. Another example of desecration of God's name is if it's at a regular time. It's not a specific time of persecution, but someone comes and puts a gun to a Jew's head and says, bow down to this idol or else I will kill you. So there is a specific mitzvah to allow yourself to be killed in order not to bow down to the idol. Bowing down to the idol would be a violation of this mitzvah not to desecrate God's name. Moving on to something that is perhaps more relatable. If someone does a sin, not for any direct pleasure or benefit, but he does it because he wants to show that he or she doesn't care about God's mitzvahs, that's another desecration of God's name. And finally, a person of stature, someone who would be expected to behave in a specific way and doesn't behave in that way, that's also a desecration of God's name. One of the great Talmudic sages said that if I go to the store and I purchase food on credit, that's a desecration of God's name because someone of my stature should be paying for the food. Another mitzvah. This also is connected to the idea of desecration of God's name. We are not allowed to destroy or cause any damage to that which is God's. In the times of the Holy Temple, if someone would go and destroy any part of the temple or of the altar, that is the violation of a negative commandment not to destroy anything that belongs to God. This also applies to a Torah scroll or any type of holy book. Destroying those books is a violation of that mitzvah. And finally, the third mitzvah for today is that we have an obligation to follow the instructions of a prophet. The concept of prophecy in Judaism is as old as Judaism itself. Judaism is based on prophecy. Moses was a prophet. Divine communication to mankind specifically through a chosen individual. After Moses died, the Torah was complete with all 613 mitzvot. But Moses told us, and it's recorded in the Torah, that in every generation you will have prophets who will communicate God's word. And although these prophets cannot change the Torah, there is the power of prophecy to change a mitzvah for a specific time period. So if a confirmed prophet comes to a Jew and says that God has commanded you to do a specific thing which is contrary to Torah and to do it only once or at a specific time period, we have the obligation to follow the instructions of that prophet. More on prophecy tomorrow.